Nikki Phillippi is a lifestyle YouTuber who has recently returned from being cancelled a few months ago with a response, which has flared up people's interest yet again. Originally starting a journey in 2010 casually making videos to show her friends, Nikki soon skyrocketed into relevancy when her song covers began to get millions of views during 2016. However, during that time, she took a sharp U-turn from becoming an upcoming singer, and has since then switched to lifestyle and parenting videos in Tennessee with her husband. From there, her channel really began to appeal to a specific audience through her videos in which she discusses her daily routines to her 1.2 million subscribers. Although from looking at her average views, I doubt very many of them have been watching over the past few years. From the beginning, it's apparent that Nikki has been very comfortable and very good at broadcasting her own life from the beginning, but she has never changed her content apart from that specific U-turn, and that inability to change has led her into some controversies that have compelled her to take a 2-month hiatus, which ended 2 weeks ago. So it's due time that we look back at all the controversial things that Nikki Phillippi has done, as well as her own apology.
A lot of people have been talking about this next story,
but this just hits too close to home for me to stay silent about.
which is the YouTubers Nikki and Dan Phillippi.
Because personally, I don't think that she deserves to be forgiven after she has shown that she clearly is not even remotely remorseful.
Who put their dog down after it bit their son. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but I'll briefly explain. They put out a video. So this is a dog. I guess these guys have been vlogging for a while, and they've had this dog Bowser in their life for like 10 years. This is their family dog, right?
The fact I still didn't get over the fact that they did a photo shoot with the dog. I'm still kind of stuck on that. Like, that's just, that right there tells you
It's all for social
everything
media.
was fine.
Yeah.
You guys were fine.
Yeah.
In 1993, Young Living, a company that sells essential oils and related products, was founded by Donald Young and has been distributing oils ever since then. Young Living is an MLM company, which stands for multi-level marketing. What that means is the company markets their products by using influencers or distributors, and then the company then commissions the distributors instead of having them on a set wage every time they sell the products. You may be wondering why this company and system that many people haven't really heard of is relevant to the story, but in 2018, Nikki Phillippi announced that she was a distributor for Young Living in a video where she unboxes her monthly reward.
So if you don't know what Essential Rewards is, this is only my second month back of unboxing these. I had unboxed them for a year, but I had some issues with the videos with compliance because I'm also a Young Living distributor. And so there are things that you are not allowed to say about health products. So I had to end up privating a lot of those videos, which is a bummer.
The issue with this is that whilst Young Living do supposedly have good oils from an outsider view, a simple Google search will reveal some things about the company which are, well, less than satisfactory, let's just say. In 2000, Young Living faced a lawsuit regarding safety violations with the company, which led to an employee's death, which was followed up by reports to the FDA that their oil was having quote-unquote unexpected effects in 2013 and 2014, which was then followed by reports of illegally trafficking certain oils in 2017. So, Young Living has got a hectic brand, and not exactly someone you'd want to be associating with. And despite that, Young Living has gotten plenty of promotions in many of Nikki's videos, including advisory ones about her night routine.
Then I plugged in my diffuser and I'm diffusing Gentle Baby that my sister Shayna just gave me. I love it because of the rose oil that's in it. Then I turned on my diffuser in the bathroom. I diffused Peace and Calming and Tangerine.
And considering the aforementioned controversy regarding unexpected effects, that isn't exactly the most reliable advice. And in recent times, Young Living has flaunted the track record of medical misinformation, as in 2020, some sellers even went as far to claim that their oils could cure the coronavirus and cancer, which is obviously not true. So is this Nikki's fault? Well, yes. In the clip I showed previously, she says that since becoming a distributor, Nikki has had to make the videos where she criticized Young Living private, which to me indicates that she is aware of Young Living's controversial past, but stays a distributor for the commission that she gets from them. Nikki is a complete fault for ignoring the history and practices of Young Living, and even if she isn't a distributor now, she has supported and promoted potentially harmful products and endorsed misinformation. If she has the best intentions in mind, she needs to check who she is affiliating with as a creator and influencer with responsibility. But what about a more sensitive topic than essential oils, something a lot more controversial?
Well, joining me now is Dr. Ngozi Irondu, who's a biosecurity expert and part of the Global Health Programme at Chatham House. How worried should we be in Britain?
Well, in Britain, I think that we should be concerned, but not overly worried. We should be concerned because this is a novel virus. We don't have that much information about it, but we know that it falls into the coronavirus family. So like SARS or the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, we know that this type of virus could have the potential to infect a lot of people.
2020 began with COVID-19, the virus that's locked the whole world into their homes in fear of catching it. As of now, we're still waiting to be fully free, and many of us are still feeling the effects of the past year, but the fear of the virus and lockdown has created desperation, and in turn, many people have tried to find solutions and cures for the virus, and where there's desperation, there's a market. Many people have tried to profit off making fake cures for the virus, which is all well for them, until social media platforms started clamping down on them. In March 2020, Nikki came under fire for a video, My Virus Story, in which she discusses and recommends intaking high levels of vitamins because of her experience of a viral infection of high-dose intravenous vitamin C, or HDIVC.
So here's where COVID-19 comes in, and here's why I feel like my voice needs to be thrown into this conversation. People that have been following my journey for a while, like I said, have actually been sending me Instagram posts and different news articles and things of reports that have come out of different areas of the world, specifically some of them are in China, of doctors who used the treatment that my sister and I used to get better. And that is, I don't know what that was like a drum roll, high dose intravenous vitamin C. Now, if you're rolling your eyes or you're laughing right now, I'm serious.
And whilst high levels of vitamins can help you with a lot of things in life, the coronavirus is definitely not one of them, and overdosing on vitamins can be potentially fatal. This is just misleading information and could be classified as false COVID-19 treatment. However, let's take a step back, because I think this is kind of 50-50. First off, whilst HDIVC does not cure the coronavirus, pilot trials have shown that it could show a potential benefit in improving oxygenation for people with long COVID. So it is good advice, just not presented well. And secondly, at the end of the day, this is her own personal story, her own opinion, and her own recommendation, and she does add a medical disclaimer at the beginning of the video that is very detailed. She's expecting her own viewers to think for themselves, and I believe that they should, and thus this should be considered in the argument. At the end of the day, she did promote vitamins as a treatment for COVID-19, which is a point that she should still be criticised for, but it is her own opinion, and she did add a detailed medical disclaimer. Most people might see it as guilty, but if you don't bother to acknowledge that disclaimer and take a lifestyle YouTuber story's professional advice, then that is something that should be more fault on your part than Nikki's. I believe the video is made more for discussion rather than medical analysis. However, the next part is just something quite awful. Anti-vaxxers are some of the biggest nutjobs online, as people who essentially put their children at risk for their misled beliefs from flawed research that has been disproven time and time again. And Nikki got a lot of backlash for her views on vaccinations, which allied with anti-vax sentiments. She made a Q&A where she was asked about her opinion on vaccinations, and she answered with a long 3-minute segment talking about it.
Okay, if you are comfortable, your thoughts on vaccination. Okay, this will be quick. You don't need to call me an anti-vaxxer, because once again, with that binary, like, people love to put you in one or the other. So we don't need to call me an anti-vaxxer, but at the same time, if you wanted to call me an anti-vaxxer, you could go ahead and do that. I know a lot of people think that those people are crazy. My personal belief is that if you think those people are crazy, you haven't gone down the wormhole enough. And I hate when people say this, but you haven't, quote, done enough research, which I don't mean that as an insult. If you're like super pro-vaccine, I don't mean like, do your research and then you'll find out, because you could do your research and totally disagree. That's actually my biggest qualm with people's sentences in general of do your research. It's like, well, we can read the same things and come to a different conclusion.
This is a very puzzling and overall confusing point to begin with. Saying that people lack research in vaccine discussion is kind of ignorant to the massive amounts of professional analysis and multiple studies disproving anti-vax stories, and the research has been compacted into more consumable and relatable media for the public. It's ironic how she's calling other people out for not researching when it seems as if that's something she hasn't done all with HDIVC and Young Living. HDIVC was based on her own experience, whilst Young Living was a company that she turned a blind eye to.
Anyways, I think that the concerns are valid. If you've never looked up a man named Del Bigtree, I mean, kind of good luck, because he's being censored all over the internet. But if you've never looked him up, I highly recommend it. And if you're gonna tell me that you've seen a couple of clips of his, I don't do well with that. Like when people go like, yeah, I've seen clips of whatever it is we're talking about. It could be anything. And they've never seen a full presentation from someone on whatever topic. I'm really bothered by that. So if you have seen a couple of clips from Del Bigtree and you didn't like it, but you've never watched his full presentations, don't comment. That's so dramatic. But it's true because he is impeccable with his sources. He gives original sources, government documentation.
Recommending Del Bigtree is a fatal error to your advocacy towards anti-vaccination. For those uninformed, Del Bigtree is the CEO of Informed Consent Action Network, ICAN, a large influential anti-vax organization which has received a lot of funding. Del Bigtree is the same man who ran a show called The High Wire that got taken down from Facebook and YouTube for promoting medical misinformation policies and downplaying the severity of the pandemic. Del Bigtree is the same person who spoke at the Capitol rallies following the 2020 presidential election, attacking federal health authorities, because that was definitely the big issue at the time. Del Bigtree is the same person who wore a Star of David at an anti-vaccination event in an attempt to compare the opposition towards anti-vaxxers to the persecution of the Jewish people in 1930s Germany. Del Bigtree also has no medical credentials, and his career consists of being a daytime television show producer for Dr. Phil for 5 episodes, as well as a spin-off talk show called The Doctors for 5 years, and someone who's been described as a person who does fear-mongering based off misinformation. So yeah, that's who you're gonna recommend?
And the other thing about Del Bigtree is he's winning court cases. Like, he's winning battles in the courts in a big way, and I think it says something.
So it looks like Nikki may have made a good point here, but let me take this time to really go in. The 2 lawsuits in question are against the US Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, and the Center for Disease Control, or CDC. Whilst that may be convincing on the surface, further looks into websites that report these results reveal dishonesty. ICAN claimed that the HHS admitted they had not been monitoring vaccine safety in the last 30 years. However, upon further inspection, HHS were not able to answer to a public information request from ICAN, but there is no evidence to suggest they haven't been monitoring vaccine safety over the past 30 years. Further backed up by a government review of the HHS in 2008, which is publicly available to read. And as for the CDC, I can say that they managed to get them to remove a line of text which stated vaccines don't cause autism, but the removal wasn't a capitulation to ICANN's demands, as the CDC webpage still stated that vaccines don't cause autism in the text below the modified headline. And just a month or so later, the CDC's website restored the original statement, vaccines don't cause autism, in its headline. This means the CDC did not remove the headline because of ICANN, and it was most likely due to something with the webpage and formatting. So whilst Del Bigtree supposedly won huge lawsuits, it's fair to say they did not make a big impact, and his claims of what they've done are dishonest or flawed. And for me, that's enough to discredit Nikki as a reliable source when it comes to anti-vaccinations, especially when she disables comments and ratings because of the backlash from what she said. Vaccination is a tough subject to discuss, and whatever point you want to make has to be backed up by verifiable sources. Whilst researching this video, I found 2 websites called PR Newswire and Iron Presswire with articles about the situation that seemed neutral, but in fact both were written by members of ICANN. It could even be possible that these lawsuits never happened and were simply made up. Hey guys, just want to make a little bit of a correction mid-editing. So I looked through ICANN's website and I found out there actually were legal documents regarding something happening with the HHS. I'll put it up on screen now for you all. As much as it seems like ICANN might have won here, it's not a lawsuit. It's more of just a complaint to the court. It's more like, it's like a man talking to a brick wall. That's how I'd like to compare it to. So yeah, back to the video. Nikki didn't do her research at all for all of these cases. Her main recommendation is a man who has twisted situations for his own benefit, and if I was a parent, I would not trust her at all with what she says. Her daily routine videos of product placement from a company that has previously been in hot water for adverse and unexpected effects from their products, her medical beliefs are based on her own experience, and her research into vaccines is more just following the preachings of anti-vaxxers like a sheep. This video is sponsored by no one. Yeah, what a surprise. But more importantly, if there is going to be a sponsor, it's you. My continuation to make videos is only thanks to the viewers of the channel. So, thank you. Now, all of these previous controversies we've heard about have been building up over the last 3 years, with mutters and murmurs all around the beauty community. All it would take is one spark to set flames to the entire house. And that spark came on May the 4th, 2021. On May the 4th, 2021, Nikki and her husband Dan made a video in which they announced that they were putting their bull terrier Bowser down after he bit their son Logan.
So over the weekend, going into the weekend on Friday, we had to put Bowser to sleep. Man, it's so awkward saying the words. I feel like I don't even know how to quite say it. And, you know, Dan is with me because Bowser was, I mean, he was our dog, but he was Dan's dog.
Now, on the surface, without looking into the video, it seems reasonable, but upon further inspection, there are many things that don't add up. Euthanasia is a very harsh and often desperate last option when handling an animal that has attacked someone, so there has to have been some sort of large issue. So, what massive damage did the dog do?
Once Logan got to the point of being able to crawl around and run around by himself, you know, he's really grabby too. He grabbed onto Bowser's ear, and Bowser didn't do anything. You know, he's that calm, gentle giant that lives in my house. But you know, Logan got him so good that if you know what an MMA fighter looks like or a wrestler, they have that cauliflower ear, it just balloons up. That's what happened to Bowser's ear. You might have caught a couple glimpses of it. You know, hey, there was one incident that happened. Bowser got Logan in the face, and it actually happened 20 minutes before we were supposed to leave to the airport to go visit her parents. So obviously it wasn't bad, but Logan still is
has a little mark.
He's still healing up from a little mark on his face from
one bite. A bite that left a small mark from a dog after being provoked by the child. That's really all you need to pull the trigger? Granted, a bite might make a parent panicked, but that is not a justification for ending a dog's life. And anyways, it is incredibly unreasonable for Nikki and Dan to blame the dog for their parenting faults and how they failed to teach their own son to not bite the ear of their pet days before. One single provoked bite should not be a sign for putting down an animal, and even if they were worried something else would happen to the dog, there are far more humane options, such as hiring a trainer or rehoming the dog. This was an ignorant, rash, and cruel decision, and there clearly was another motive other than protecting a child.
You know, one of the things that I liked about him, but you know, for many, many years, for most of his life, he was an extremely dangerous animal outside the walls of my house.
This is clear-cut evidence of Dan and Nikki tripping over their own words in an attempt to emotionally manipulate their own audience in different ways at the same time. In this clip, Bowser is described as an aggressive dog, which is meant to make the audience feel sympathy for Logan, but at the same time they've had him for a while and noticed his behaviour, so if they needed to put him down, why not before? Why pick now? This is an incredibly dishonest statement. And then a few minutes later, they tried to create sympathy for Bowser by calling him a gentle sleeping giant.
He's that calm, gentle giant that lives in my house.
So which is it? Sweet sleeping giant or aggressive dangerous dog? Who do my tears go to, Nikki? Well, I would say don't let Nikki and Dan take any sympathy at all, as such a dangerous and aggressive dog was put in a romanticized Instagram photo shoot with a bitten child on the day it was scheduled to die in an absolutely sick turn of events. I think we figured out the other motive: money and sympathy. Let the likes flood in as fast as our own fake tears.
Now I think the bull terrier is my favorite animal, period.
Oh.
Considering the video hasn't even been taken down to this day, and neither has the Instagram photo shoot, this is an obvious call for attention in the most twisted way, ending the life of an animal that lashed out when provoked, taking pictures with it to gain internet sympathy points, and then killing it. And this isn't the only instance of emotional manipulation.
It happened on Friday, and we woke up and had a really great day with him. You know, he was fed really good food, taken on a really beautiful outdoor drive. The weather, unlike today, was perfect. It was so beautiful. We played with Bowser in the back and soaked up the sun and just relaxed with him. And
yeah, like the dog cares about the weather when it's about to be fucking put down for nothing. Additional points about this video include blatant lies about contacting the Humane Society that they came out to deny.
And we contacted the Humane Society, and we had a long discussion with someone over there, and basically she made it clear to us that rehoming Bowser was not an option because he had been with us from birth, basically. I mean, Dan was he was Dan's spirit animal.
The Humane Society of the United States told Today that the nationwide organization had no involvement with this case. When contacted by Today, the Nashville Humane Association said they had no records of Dan and Nikki Phillippi, and were not aware of any conversations about the euthanizing of Bowser. The Phillippis did not specify in the video which animal shelter they had connected with beyond saying the Humane Society, and they did not respond with requests to comment. There were also clips resurfacing where Dan was teasing Bowser, the big aggressive dog, with his other dog Zoe.
3, 4.
Oh my god. Oh my.
And Dan comparing how he wanted to euthanize Bowser to the film Old Yeller.
In the moment, I'm thinking, you know, I grew up with the movie Old Yeller, and I wanted to pick Bowser up by the back of the neck and take him into the backyard and put him down right there.
In such a cold-hearted and cruel way that it amazed me how they never caught on to how awful they were sounding whilst they were editing or uploading. It seems psychopathic. Unsurprisingly, and rightfully so, this video got a lot of backlash from everyone. Nikki immediately disabled ratings and comments on many of her videos, and both Nikki and Dan subsequently went private on Instagram, with Dan even going so far to delete his Twitter. And yet the video hasn't been taken down to this day, and neither has Nikki's Instagram post, probably because they might still be monetarily profiting off it. People on Twitter came out to have their say in droves, and as always someone created a petition that unsurprisingly went nowhere, but the Twitter comments were enough and brought a lot of attention to the video. People such as Jeffree Star were tweeting about it. It's hard to fathom how someone could kill their own family dog and make content out of it. They need to be investigated. As a dog owner whose animals are my life, this is hard to wrap my head around. And soon Ethan and healer Klein of the HD podcast also addressed it as well, which only gave the controversy more traction. The video now stands at over 1 million views, with Nikki's slowly decaying channel taking a massive loss of around 30,000 subscribers, with deafening silence until recently. All comments on the videos are disabled, and the ratings for other videos show the anger that people had towards her. In no way is Nikki ever innocent in this whole situation. She made a rash decision despite other options being provided, and saw the monetary gain and attention from exploiting emotional grief for views and money, and took it. This is borderline animal cruelty. Remember, all of you, there are no bad pets, only bad owners. Now, before we do get into response to Nikki, I quickly want to shoehorn in something else that does need addressing. So, during the whole dog controversy, Nikki also had a drama regarding adoption. The simple cut and dry of it is that Nikki and Dan made a complete saga of videos regarding an adoption that they were about to make, first from Thailand. All seemed to be going well, with good progress being made, but then a video titled "We're Not Adopting from Thailand Anymore" came up, and the reason why is just awful. Now, the video is very rambly and 26 minutes long, considering it could be summarized in a short paragraph, but basically, according to the adoption agency that Nikki worked with, Thailand's law restricts the release of an adopted child's information, photos, videos and films to mass media or internet before finalization. Or in other words, Nikki and Dan can't upload a video called "Our New Adopted Child" or anything related to the child for the first 2 years of adoption, which means that they couldn't milk it for views, and so they didn't do their adoption. I'm sorry. What about the child's life? I'm sure the child would benefit a lot better than being adopted. I think it should be a lot more about the adoption than a fucking YouTube video. And if you want a second opinion, here's a friend of mine, Watermelon the Cat, also giving her thoughts on the entire situation.
So here's my little segment on the Nikki controversy. So basically, my opinion is that this woman is fucking crazy. First, she euthanized her dog over something that isn't even the dog's fault, and now she's calling off an adoption, all because she can't use her baby for clout, which is really disgusting. I hope she never gets anything. I hope she doesn't adopt any more creatures or humans, because what she's doing is literally terrible. It's disgusting. She should get some sort of ban on these kind of things.
For any of you that are a bit confused on why I was so certain Nikki and Dan were milking the dog for views, this is why. Yet another controversy where Nikki and Dan threw the morals out the window, and this time it's because they couldn't get enough attention because the law prohibited them. On July the 14th, 2021, around 2 weeks from writing and around 3 months from the controversy, Nikki came back with a video called Long Time No See. In this video there's quite a lot to go over that should be responded to, as this video isn't an apology or an admittance of mistake and fault as you may be expecting, but in essence it is more of a response and an update. Unless she has the best excuse in the world for all of this, she definitely should be apologizing here. So let's take a look at the video's main points.
Oh, okay, here we go. Hi guys, so it's so weird to be like, hi guys, because wow, hi, it's been a minute. And honestly, my corny, almost kind of tone-deaf intro is so typical me. But if you've been watching my channel for any extended period of time, you know that not only do I have a really difficult time with intros, but I have a difficult time in general with hard emotions or negative emotions.
This to me seems as if she's trying to justify the see-through emotions that she had in her video, where her reactions were sometimes really emotional and other times just completely unmoved. It reminds me of Logan Paul's apology video and how he said he uses laughter to cope with extremely dark things. But the fact that she immediately says this near the beginning of the video in order to quickly establish it raises some suspicion for me.
Yes, we have moved since then, and you know, that's one of the things I wanted to tell you guys in this video. We have moved. We are no longer in Nashville, and all of that, the whole move was really, really crazy because of everything that unfolded in our previous video.
This isn't a criticism, but Nikki saying that she moved house all the way to Idaho, might I add, makes it seem as if the hiatus she took wasn't because of the dog controversy and her reflecting on what happened. It paints her in a worse light yet again, although this time I feel it's unintentional.
But you know, in that video, when I talked, a big part of what I talked about and what I wanted to make succinct, there's a lot of things, but a big part of that was, like I said, how painful this has all been, because putting Bowser to sleep, as we said in that video, was the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives, both of us. And that was so difficult in and of itself. When we sat to film that video, we had been crying for 3 days straight. And what was fascinating about all of that, along with a ton of other things, was this realization of, like, yet again, remembering how much, how do I word this, that I shouldn't be judging other people, because so many people's judgments of us and where our headspace was and our heart and our decision making and everything was just so inaccurate. It was jarring.
On one hand, I understand her point about how the internet tried to seep through her mindset using only one video. YouTubers with psychological analysis and body language expert videos always felt like they were looking too deep into what she was saying, but at the same time, she also plays victim, saying how she'd be crying for 3 days straight about how Bowser had to be put down, when that was just missing the whole point. The whole thing surrounding her sympathy in the video was rebutted well when she talked about people guessing her mindset, but the main point of the backlash was about how bad her decision was and why she used the situation for her own gain.
And in a lot of ways, like I said, I'll be processing it the rest of my life. Dan and I are people that want to learn. We want to learn from our mistakes. We want to continue to grow and change. And I can't stand here and be like, everything I've ever done, all decisions I've made have been the perfectly right ones at the right time. It's just not true. And, you know, I just want to continue to look back on my life and learn and grow.
Thankfully, we do at least have a positive outcome from this video. She's actually acknowledging mistakes and learning from them, but we're yet to hear any apology of any sort. You've tried to use your audience's emotions for money, for God's sake.
A couple things I want to clarify that my family felt like I should address, because I don't really want to go back and address a whole lot, because we told the truth. Everything we said in that video was our truth and the truth.
This is once again another example of Nikki missing the point of the backlash. No one ever said her story wasn't the truth at all, as many people did initially believe her story, and that's what they were criticizing, her actions in her story. No one was ever trying to claim she was lying, because she didn't lie. She did put a dog down, but what she did was wrong.
But two things. One, my parents felt like it was really important for me to clarify that we kind of downplayed the severity of what was happening with Bowser, not only through the course of his life and his aggressive tendencies.
This is exactly what everyone is talking about. Here, Nikki admits to knowing about aggressive tendencies, yet doesn't address the other options available that she could have given to Bowser. That's exactly the issue. It feels like we're back in a sympathy loop of some sort.
And then the second thing that I debated saying, because I am not trying to get in like a receipts battle with people, like last thing I want to do, but there were mainstream media publications, which this shouldn't surprise me, like I said, because we've all seen it all over but that told blatant lies. And one of the biggest blatant lies told about us, although there were many, was that we never had contact with the Humane Society, that we never talked to them. Like I said, I have pretty detailed proof of that. And I'm not trying to get into a receipt battle, like I said, but it is very weird.
This one might be a bit of a tricky one. Nikki's claim is that she contacted the Humane Society and they said they couldn't rehouse Bowser, but this was directly disputed by both the National Humane Association and US Humane Society, claiming there were no records where the Phillippi's name was on it. Without really any solid evidence from Nikki, this becomes a he said, she said story, and her reluctance to release evidence makes her seem dishonest or unreliable.
So on top of that, you know, there were some publications that dipped into our adoption journey and other stuff on our channel as well, but our adoption journey got pulled in, and once again, our motives, our heart, our mind, it was all completely twisted. They took half-truths, which is already not a great place to start, and then twisted those half-truths.
The law of Thailand is not a half-truth. This is a blatant lie that she told on camera. Everything that people have criticized her for regarding the adoption controversy are things that she stated in her own video. So either her own video is full of half-truths, or she's just speaking BS.
And so we're not gonna have that, so we're gonna have comments off for the time being. And I'm actually going to be restarting Patreon. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like. A big reason for that is because I kind of want to decide with you guys. I have ideas, but I'm not sure, A, what I can handle, B, what's going to even make financial sense. So what I'm gonna be doing on Patreon is I'm gonna be uploading all of the videos that I put on YouTube to Patreon as well, and that is where comments will be left on.
On one hand, again, I can see why you do want comments but not an entire mob, but on the other hand, you're putting a price on possible criticism. It's as if it's a paywall. Overall, I agree with a few points made in the video, but some of the points made were just completely dishonest, and she completely missed the point that detractors were making against her, which either indicates to me that she spent too much time offline or not enough time offline. Either way, her lack of apologies or expression of guilt towards anything else she did, such as the adoption saga, makes this a terrible response in my opinion. Not once did we ever hear something resembling an apology of some sort, and she either responds poorly to criticism or not at all. Nikki Phillippi is a YouTuber who's done some pretty bad things, but she has a bleeding channel that's slowly been suffocated by its lack of relevance as she continues to lose more subscribers. So why should we care? Personally, I'm not huge into the beauty community at all, and this shouldn't have interested me, but time and time again it has shocked me how consistently she made mistake after mistake, and all it took was a little bit of research to correct them. She continues to get into this sort of drama, and from my perspective, I don't think she's fully adapted to the change in the beauty community and has just been left behind, having to learn the lessons that everyone else has already passed. She's just so out of touch, and I think this is going to become a recurring issue for pillar-stone creators of the beauty community, one that uses cancel culture in such a cutthroat way. What she needs to do is admit fault, as a recent response does not do anything close to this, and the criticism will keep on coming until she does realise that she'd received criticism for things that were morally fucked. You can't just move on from this as if nothing really happened. For all of these cases, her motives are just see-through to me. In 3 out of the 5 controversies covered in those videos, the motives seemed to be money, whilst the others were expression of belief and lack of research. If you want to revive your channel and audience, there are easier and more morally positive ways to do so. It seems like common sense to all of us, but this is the same 33-year-old woman who put her dog down over a bite, refused to adopt a child because of a law that prohibited her from showing that child on camera, and promoted medical misinformation multiple times. So I don't expect a lot. And right now, watching, unless I'm proven wrong, I don't think anyone else is either.